First contact, worst contact. The Pathfinder cut through the darkness of deep space, a needle of light and ambition pushing into the unknown. Commander Eliza Reeves stood on the observation deck, watching the unfamiliar star system grow larger in the viewscreen. 20 years of space exploration had hardened her against wonder, but this, humanity's first venture beyond their local cluster, still made her breath catch. "Commander, we're detecting unusual energy signatures ahead." Lieutenant Cano's voice broke through her reverie. "Definitely artificial. Definitely not one of ours." And just like that, humanity was no longer alone. Yellow alert. Notify Earth Central. First contact protocols are in effect as of now. Eliza ordered, straightening her uniform. Months of training scenarios couldn't prepare her for the reality of this moment. Open all standard greeting frequencies and begin transmitting the first contact package. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, their motions betraying only the slightest tremors of excitement. The first contact package, a careful compilation of mathematical constants, basic scientific principles, cultural expressions, and peaceful intentions, streamed out into space, humanity's handshake to the cosmos. The response came faster than anyone expected. A massive vessel materialized from what seemed like nowhere, dwarfing the Pathfinder by at least 20 times. Its hull gleamed with an iridescent sheen that reminded Eliza of beetle carapaces, beautiful but unsettling. "Commander," Communications Officer Chen's voice wavered, "we're receiving a transmission. They've deciphered our language already." Before Eliza could process this impossibility, the main screen flickered to life. The creature that appeared had 6 eyes arranged in a hexagonal pattern on what she assumed was its face. Its skin, or perhaps exoskeleton, shifted colors like oil on water. "Human vessel," the translation came through with unnatural precision. "You have entered territory claimed by the Valkyrie Dominion. Identify your purpose and prepare for inspection." No greeting. No acknowledgement of a historic moment, just immediate assertion of authority. Eliza stepped forward. "I am Commander Eliza Reeves of the Earth Exploration Vessel Pathfinder. We come with peaceful intentions to establish contact and mutual understanding. We were unaware this region was claimed territory." The alien's eyes blinked in unsettling sequence. "Ignorance is not exemption. The Dominion's claim extends to all systems within reach of our technology." With respect, Eliza chose her words carefully. "Earth and humanity recognize no prior claim to territories we've had no opportunity to negotiate over. We propose diplomatic discussion to establish." "Your species' recognition is irrelevant," the Valkyrie interrupted. "Our scans indicate your vessel possesses rudimentary weaponry. Power down these systems immediately or be considered hostile." Eliza felt the atmosphere on the bridge tighten. "Those are defensive systems only, standard for any deep space vessel. Powering them down would leave us vulnerable. Perhaps we cold." "Compliance is not optional." The Valkyrie's coloration darkened. "Your species exhibits concerning traits. Our preliminary analysis of your transmission package indicates a history of internal conflict and resource exploitation. The Dominion cannot permit potentially aggressive species free movement." And just like that, first contact was spiraling into confrontation. "Sir," Tactical Officer Ramirez whispered, "they're scanning us deeply, penetrating scans into our hull systems, databases, even crew biosignatures." Eliza raised her hand slightly, signaling Ramirez to hold steady. "We understand your caution, but these scans violate our sovereignty. Please cease immediately so we can continue peaceful dialogue." The Valkyrie commander's colors shifted to a deep purple. "Sovereignty is earned through technological and evolutionary advancement. Your species has demonstrated neither sufficiently. You will submit to full inspection and assessment for threat classification." "And if we decline?" Eliza asked, though she already knew the answer. "Then you will be classified as hostile by default and dealt with accordingly." The alien's voice remained flat, emotionless. "We have encountered 17 spacefaring species before yours. 14 submitted willingly. 3 did not, and no longer exist as independent entities. A chill ran through the bridge. This wasn't first contact. This was first conquest. Eliza straightened her shoulders. We'll need to consult with our central government before agreeing to any inspections. Please allow us. Unacceptable. You will comply within 1 standard rotation or face immediate neutralization. The screen went dark. The bridge erupted in controlled chaos as officers turned to their commander for direction. Get me a secure channel to Earth Central immediately, Eliza ordered. And prepare jump calculations. If this goes sideways, I want an escape route. Commander, Science Officer Patel called out. I've been analyzing their scans. They're not just looking at our technology. They're intensely focused on our biology, particularly our neural patterns and endocrine systems. Eliza frowned. Threat assessment. Maybe. Patel looked troubled. Or maybe they're looking for something specific, something they consider dangerous. Within an hour, the situation had deteriorated further. 3 more Valkyrie vessels had arrived, boxing in the Pathfinder. Earth Central's response had been clear. Do not submit to inspection. Attempt diplomatic resolution. Retreat if possible, and defend if necessary. Commander, Lieutenant Kano called out. The Valkyrie are hailing us again. The alien commander appeared once more, its colors now a threatening crimson. We have completed our preliminary assessment, it stated without preamble. Your species presents an unacceptable risk factor. Your neural capacity and adaptation potential exceeds safe parameters for unregulated species. Eliza blinked. You're threatened by our intelligence. Not intelligence. Unpredictability. Your species lacks proper evolutionary constraints. Your stress responses and adaptability metrics indicate dangerous potential for rapid evolution under pressure. For the first time, Eliza thought she detected emotion in the alien's voice. Something like fear. All spacefaring species must be cataloged and regulated according to their threat potential, the Valkyrie continued. Yours has been classified Category Alpha, requiring complete supervision and technological limitation. That's not acceptable, Eliza replied firmly. Humanity will never submit to limitation or supervision by an external power. Then you leave us no alternative but to demonstrate the consequences of defiance, the Valkyrie stated coldly. We have extracted your stellar cartography. Your colony worlds have been identified. Examples will be made. The screen went dark again. They're powering weapons, Ramirez shouted. Execute emergency jump. Eliza commanded. Get us out of here. Now. The Pathfinder lurched as the drive engaged, tearing a hole in space-time and pulling them through just as the first Valkyrie energy weapons discharged. They tumbled out of the jump point, alarms blaring across the bridge. Damage report, Eliza demanded, picking herself up from the floor. Jump drive severely damaged, engineering reported. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 4. Containment holding. 7 injured, no fatalities. How far did we get? Eliza asked. Kano checked the navigation console. Not far enough, Commander. We're still 2 jumps from the nearest colony. They'll overtake us before we reach Sol. Eliza's mind raced. We need to warn Earth and the colonies. Prepare all our first contact data and encounter logs for emergency transmission. As the crew worked frantically to compile the data, Eliza retreated to her ready room for one brief moment of private reflection. First contact had turned into first conflict, and somehow humanity's very nature, the adaptability and resilience that had carried them to the stars, was what these aliens feared most. The Valkyrie had made one critical error in their calculations. They had identified humanity's greatest strength and mistaken it for a vulnerability to be controlled rather than a weapon already primed. Commander, Chen's voice came through the comm. Emergency transmission ready. Eliza returned to the bridge, determination hardening her resolve. Send it, all channels, maximum spread, and prepare a separate packet for the colonies. If the Valkyrie want to make examples, They're about to learn why you don't pick a fight with humans. The transmission went out, racing ahead of them toward Earth and the colonies, a warning, but also the opening salvo in what would become humanity's fight for its very existence. The Valkyrie thought they were initiating the subjugation of an inferior species. They had no idea they had just declared war on the wrong species entirely. The unconquerable spirit. Admiral Zhao stared at the holographic display of the Arcturus colony, watching as the last civilian transports evacuated under the protection of Earth's hastily assembled defense fleet. 6 weeks had passed since the Pathfinder's warning, barely enough time to prepare for war with a technologically superior enemy. Status of Protocol Hydra, she asked the assembled War Council. General Santos nodded grimly. All 17 colonies have implemented the distributed resistance framework. Civilian populations have been reduced to essential personnel only, with the remainder relocated to deep bunker facilities on Earth and Mars. And the Lazarus Initiative. Dr. Sharma stepped forward, dark circles under her eyes betraying weeks of sleepless work. The genetic data from the Valkyrie scans has been invaluable. We've identified exactly what they fear about us. She manipulated the display to show human DNA alongside an alien strand. It's our adrenal system and neural plasticity. Humans under extreme stress don't just fight or flee. We adapt, innovate, and evolve our behaviors at a rate the Valkyrie find terrifying. The council exchanged glances, a grim sort of pride emerging among them. Incoming transition signatures, a technician called out. Valkyrie fleet approaching Arcturus. Estimated time to engagement, 15 minutes. Admiral Zhou straightened her uniform. It's time to show them exactly why they should be afraid. The first Valkyrie attack came as expected. Overwhelming force against what appeared to be a vulnerable human colony. Their massive battleships emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, immediately deploying fighters and assault craft toward the settlement's surface. What they didn't expect was the complete absence of panic. The human defenders moved with eerie coordination. Instead of a centralized command structure that could be decapitated, each unit operated with near-autonomous decision-making capabilities while maintaining perfect awareness of the larger strategic picture. When the Valkyrie jammed communications, the humans switched to prearranged protocols. When key defensive positions were overrun, the defenders didn't retreat. They evolved their tactics on the fly, creating improvised weapons from colony infrastructure and setting complex traps that seemed to anticipate Valkyrie tactical doctrine. On the Valkyrie command ship, Supreme Commander Valex watched with growing concern as the battle unfolded. "Impossible," he muttered, his exoskeleton flushing a disturbed yellow. "Their resistance should have collapsed hours ago." His second, Strategy Director Nix, studied the latest field reports. The humans are demonstrating unprecedented neural synchronization under pressure. Each isolated group is somehow adapting simultaneously to our tactics without central coordination. A hive mind, Valex suggested. No. Nix's colors darkened. Something worse. Individual intelligence with collective adaptation. They're learning from each assault, not just locally, but system-wide. Valex expanded the tactical display to show multiple engagement zones across 3 colony worlds. The pattern was unmistakable. Each human victory informed defenses elsewhere, creating an exponential learning curve that was rapidly negating the Valkyrie technological advantage. Implement biological countermeasures, Valex ordered. Deploy nerve agents tuned to human physiology. The Valkyrie were certain this would end the resistance. No species could function while their neural systems were under chemical attack. They were wrong. The effect of the nerve agents was immediate, but not what they expected. Instead of incapacitation, the human defenders experienced heightened awareness, accelerated reaction times, and unprecedented situational adaptation. The chemicals designed to disrupt human neural function had instead triggered an extreme stress response, exactly the evolutionary mechanism the Valkyrie feared most. Dr. Sharma watched the incoming data with a mixture of horror and fascination. Their weapons are triggering the very adaptation response they hope to prevent. She told Admiral Joe via quantum entanglement communicator, a system the Valkyrie couldn't jam. It's killing some of our people, but those who survive are demonstrating cognitive performance beyond anything we've recorded. Can we replicate it? Zhao asked. Already have, Sharma replied. Synthesized compound deploying to frontline units now. We're calling it Prometheus. Across the battlefields of 3 worlds, human defenders began receiving injections of the compound. What followed was unlike anything in military history. Ordinary soldiers developing battlefield innovations in real time, engineers repurposing Valkyrie technology almost as quickly as it was captured, and a collective strategic intelligence emerging from thousands of individual adaptations. On the 8th day of the invasion, Valkyrie forces suffered their first major defeat at New Anchorage Colony. By the 15th day, human forces had captured a Valkyrie scout ship intact. By the 30th day, humanity had reverse-engineered enough Valkyrie technology to begin mounting counteroffensives. Supreme Commander Valex faced the Dominion High Council, his exoskeleton a sickly gray of distress. The holographic display showed the latest disaster, a human counterattack that had reclaimed 2 colonies and destroyed 3 Valkyrie capital ships. This cannot be happening, Counselor Mex hissed, her colors fluctuating wildly. No category alpha species has ever resisted classification. The humans are not merely resisting, Valex replied. They are weaponizing the very traits we identified as dangerous. Each conflict increases their adaptation rate. They are evolving their warfare capabilities in weeks instead of centuries. How? Another counselor demanded. Valex displayed the latest intelligence. They call it distributed evolutionary response. Their neural systems under stress create novel solutions that spread through their military almost instantaneously. Worse, they've developed chemical compounds that accelerate this process deliberately. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. We have made a catastrophic miscalculation, Valex concluded. In attempting to suppress their evolutionary potential, we have instead accelerated it. The stress of war has turned every human into an adaptation engine. Their technology now nearly matches ours, and their tactics have evolved beyond our predictive capacity. Recommendations, the High Counselor asked quietly. There is only one, Valex replied. Immediate cessation of hostilities and withdrawal from human space. The silence that followed was deafening. 3 days later, Admiral Joe stood on the bridge of the UES Pathfinder, rebuilt and upgraded with Valkyrie-derived technology, as the Dominion delegation approached for peace negotiations. Commander Eliza Reeves, now serving as Zhao's executive officer, watched the alien ship with narrowed eyes. Think they've really given up? They haven't given up, Zhao replied. They've recognized reality. Their entire society is built on the assumption that evolution happens gradually, that species can be categorized and controlled based on their development level. And we broke their model. We shattered it, Zhao agreed. Humans don't just adapt over generations, we adapt overnight when pushed to the edge. It's not just our technology or our tactics. It's written in our DNA, in our stress responses, in how our minds work under pressure. The Valkyrie delegation aboard the Pathfinder was led by Valex himself, his exoskeleton now a subdued blue that human xenobiologists had learned signified formal diplomacy. The peace terms were surprisingly straightforward. Complete Valkyrie withdrawal from human space, recognition of human sovereignty, and exchange of scientific knowledge. There is one more condition, Valex stated, after the main terms had been discussed. The Dominion requests that humanity agree to containment protocols on the compound you call Prometheus. Its existence represents an existential threat to established galactic order. Admiral Joe smiled thinly. The compound is already being phased out. We don't need chemical enhancement to drive our adaptation. It's who we are naturally. But let me be absolutely clear. Humanity will never again allow any external power to determine our evolutionary path or technological development. Valex's colors shifted briefly to a pattern never before observed by humans. What they would later learn was the Valkyrie expression of profound existential dread. "You misunderstand, Admiral," Valex said quietly. "The request is not for your benefit, but for ours, and for the 16 other spacefaring species who now watch with great interest as humanity enters the galactic community." "Are you saying they're afraid of us too?" Reeves asked. "Not yet," Valex replied, "but they will be. The Dominion has encountered technological sophistication before. We have faced species with greater numbers and resources, but never have we encountered a species that transforms so fundamentally in response to challenge, that grows stronger precisely when it should be weakest." Admiral Joe considered this. "Perhaps that's something your Dominion should have considered before attacking us. There's an old human expression: that which does not kill us makes us stronger. You didn't just fail to kill us, Commander Valex. You made us evolve." Later, after the Valkyrie had returned to their vessel, Reeves and Zhu stood alone on the observation deck, watching the stars. "Will it hold?" Reeves asked. "The peace." Zhao nodded slowly. "It will hold because they finally understand what they're dealing with. They came expecting to find another manageable species to categorize and control. Instead, they found humanity, and now they're afraid." "As they should be," Zhao replied. "Not because we're conquerors or because we seek dominion like they do, but because we represent something they've never encountered before. A species that thrives on challenge, that grows stronger under pressure, that looks into the abyss of extinction and responds not with surrender but with transformation." Reeves smiled slightly. "So what happens now?" Zhou gazed out at the stars, at the galaxy that had suddenly become much smaller and much more complex. Now we show them who we really are. Not the warriors they forced us to become, but the explorers, innovators, and dreamers we've always been." She turned to face her former commander. "They picked a fight with humanity and learned a painful lesson. Now let's teach them something even more important: how to make peace with the most adaptable species in the galaxy." As the Valkyrie ship departed, its officers were already composing an urgent message to the Dominion's 17 subjugated species. Its contents were simple but would forever change the balance of power in the galaxy. "Warning: approach humans with extreme caution. They evolve.